From the beginning, you were taught, sometimes directly, sometimes through the subtle language of the world, that life is not enough as it is. You were told it must be justified, given shape, given purpose, as though existence itself were incomplete without an explanation stamped onto it. People spoke of destiny, of calling, of potential, and you learned to measure yourself not by the simple fact that you were here, breathing, alive, but by how well you seemed to be moving towards some imagined endpoint where everything would finally make sense. At first, it sounded noble. Who wouldn't want their life to mean something? Who wouldn't want to believe they were here for a reason? But even as you embraced the quest, a subtle pressure took hold. If there is a reason, then there is also the possibility of missing it. If there is a path, then there is also the risk of straying from it. Purpose became not just a dream to fulfill, but a test you could fail. And so the search began. You looked outward first because that's where everyone told you the answers would be. Maybe meaning would reveal itself in what you did, in what you achieved, and how the world saw you. You tried to shape yourself into someone admirable, someone whose existence couldn't be questioned. You chased ambition, gathered experiences, collected milestones like evidence in a case you were building for your own worth. And sometimes it seemed to work. There were moments, a job you landed, a relationship you found, a moment of recognition where you thought, maybe this is it. Maybe this is why I'm here. But meaning is slippery. It shifted whenever you thought you grasped it, like a horizon that always pulls just beyond reach. And instead of questioning the pursuit itself, you blamed yourself for not catching it fast enough. So you turned inward, hoping meaning could be excavated from the depths of your mind. You sought philosophies, spiritual practices, frameworks that promised to reveal the grand pattern behind it all. You learned to call it growth, evolution, self-actualization. But underneath the lofty language was the same quiet fear that who you are as you are isn't enough. That until you find your true purpose, you are living a placeholder life. And so purpose became an idol dressed as liberation. It told you it was leading you to freedom, while binding you to a wheel you didn't know you were spinning. No one told you how exhausting this could become, the way ordinary moments start to feel like they're on trial, each one needing to prove its significance. You'd drink your coffee and wonder if you were wasting time. You'd rest and feel guilty for not moving forward. Even joy, even beauty, even love were quietly co-opted by the question, is this contributing to the story I'm supposed to be living? Stillness became intolerable because it offered no proof that you were progressing. And in those rare moments when you stopped moving, when the noise fell away, a deeper fear crept in. What if there is no grand answer? What if nothing arrives to explain why I'm here? What if this is all there is? But perhaps those questions are not what they seem. Perhaps they are not the end of meaning, but the beginning of something else entirely. What if the terror you feel at the thought of life having no fixed purpose is not evidence of a problem, but a clue to the mind's misunderstanding? You see, the search for meaning is not just about finding answers, it's about controlling uncertainty. To declare a purpose is to imagine you've secured yourself against the vastness of existence, that you've tamed it, labeled it, made it safe. But life has never asked to be tamed. It does not need your labels to exist. It does not require your explanations to be whole. And what if the meaning you've been chasing has never been absent, only obscured by the insistence that it must take a form you can point to? What if meaning is not something to be earned through striving, but something revealed in the moments when striving falls away? Consider this. Everything you've done to prove your worth, every ambition, every plan, every desperate attempt to matter may have been unnecessary from the start because nothing real could ever depend on your performance. The peace you've been postponing until you figure it all out might already be here, patiently waiting for you to stop insisting it must look a certain way. Perhaps existence is not asking you to justify it. Perhaps it never was. Perhaps the belief that life must add up to something is the only thing that has made it feel like it doesn't. And perhaps the doorway you've been circling all along is not the moment you finally declare, "This is why I'm here," but the moment you no longer need to. What happens then? What happens when you stop chasing the horizon and discover that everything you've been searching for has been quietly breathing with you this entire time? The search for meaning is a journey that feels intimately personal, like a secret song whispered by your own heart, but beneath its tender surface lies a story that has echoed through time and culture, a refrain played countless times in the chambers of human consciousness. It is a story of longing and fear intertwined, a dance of light and shadow that pulls you forward even as it binds you. What seems uniquely yours is in fact part of a vast ancient pattern, a rhythm that beats through the collective soul of humanity. The urgency you feel, the restless stirring in your chest, is the pulse of that story calling you, inviting you, even as it holds you captive. You believe you are searching for meaning, for some grand reason to exist, for a purpose that will justify your presence. But beneath that desire is something more fundamental, an impulse to be safe, to be known, to be held in a reality that does not threaten to unravel beneath your feet. To live without a purpose, as the mind conceives it, feels like walking in a mist, where everything slips away, where you lose your footing in the ground of existence itself. So you grasp for reasons, for explanations, for stories that will tether you to a certainty that feels real and solid. Purpose presents itself as a beacon, a lighthouse casting its glow over the darkness, promising direction and belonging. Yet within that light flickers a shadow, a subtle, persistent fear that if you cannot claim a story to tell, if you cannot carve a place for yourself in the tapestry of meaning, you might fade into invisibility. This fear is silent but powerful. It does not scream or shout. It hums beneath the surface, coloring your thoughts, guiding your decisions, shaping your every breath. It is a ghost that haunts the corners of your mind, disguised as ambition, draped in the robes of hope, spoken in the language of progress and growth. This fear is masterful in its deception. It dresses itself in virtue and calls its voice wisdom. It promises peace at the end of a long road, but its true desire is to keep you moving, to keep you chasing. It whispers, if you only find your purpose, everything will fall into place. And you believe it because to do otherwise would be to face the vast unknown without a map. You run toward the light of meaning, clutching dreams and visions as if they were lifelines. You try on identities like clothing, each role a temporary garment, in hopes it will finally fit snug and true. But no matter how many you wear, none ever fully satisfy. The horizon beckons, but it recedes endlessly as you approach. This is no failure. It is the very nature of the machinery that powers the search. Look with care, and you will see the pattern is simple yet unbreakable. The mind claims something essential is missing, then it indents a narrative to fill the void. You chase that narrative with devotion, calling the pursuit growth, calling it progress, calling it life. But the harder you chase, the more elusive the prize becomes. The pursuit itself fuels the sense of lack, creating a loop that feeds on your hunger and never satiates it. The machinery thrives on your belief that you are incomplete. If you ever pause long enough to question this belief, the entire system would halt. You would have to confront the possibility that what you perceived as absence might actually be illusion, a veil woven by your own mind to shield you from a truth too vast and deep to face, that you are already whole. That beneath every thought and feeling, beyond the stories you tell yourself, there is a vast, unchanging presence, a silence that holds all things, a stillness that never falters. You ask yourself, if I stop searching, what remains? Who am I without this purpose that defines me? This question reveals the depth of the illusion. Somewhere along the way, Your identity and your purpose became inseparable. To lose one felt like losing the other. And so even when the chase wears you thin, when it leaves you hollow and exhausted, you cling harder, afraid to face the silence that lies beneath. For the silence is not empty, it is unknown. And the unknown feels like death. But what if the unknown is not your enemy, but your true home? What if the nothing you fear is not absence, but presence stripped of all expectation, all condition, all story? Have you ever truly met this nothingness, or only its shadow cast by the mind's fearful imagination? The moments when time pauses and the world softens into a luminous glow, those moments you call accidents or fleeting escapes, are not interruptions, but glimpses of what has always been beneath the surface. They are invitations to remember a truth you once knew, but have forgotten beneath the noise. The machinery has one final, most brilliant deception. It convinces you that peace is a prize to be won only after a long journey. That meaning must be constructed like a fortress, brick by brick, achievement by achievement. But peace is not a distant island to be reached. It is the ocean beneath every wave, the ground beneath every step. It does not depend on your proof or your progress. It simply is. To live in this truth asks everything of you. It asks you to surrender your tightly held identity, your stories, your fears, your ambitions. It asks you to rest in the unknown, to trust without answers, to be still without a plan. This surrender is not defeat, but freedom. It is the moment when the story you have carried no longer confines you, but liberates you. When you see that your worth is not measured by what you do or become, but by the simple fact that you are here, breathing, alive, unconditionally. The more you resist this surrender, the louder the machinery's voice becomes. It spins faster, shouting that without your stories and striving you would vanish. But in the rare moments when you stop performing, when you stop proving, the gears slow. You catch sight of the vast, unshakable presence beneath it all. A presence that neither demands nor judges, that simply holds you utterly whole and free. And in that presence, something shifts, something breaks open. You begin to see that the meaning you chased was never a prize to capture, but the ever-present essence of your being, radiant and untouchable, quietly waiting for you to come home. The moment of unraveling is subtle, almost imperceptible. It does not announce itself with fanfare or fireworks. There's no dramatic epiphany or sudden revelation. Instead, it arrives quietly like the slow dawning of early morning light, spreading softly over a dark horizon, gradually dissolving shadows without violence or rush. It is a gentle loosening, a gradual unwinding of the tightly wound threads your mind has spun around meaning, identity, and the stories you have told yourself. This loosening is a delicate process, a tender invitation to step beyond the familiar grip of certainty and enter a space where not knowing becomes possible. Perhaps you first feel it in a pause between breaths, a silence that unexpectedly opens where your thoughts once raced. Maybe it appears as a flicker of hesitation in your usual conviction, a soft doubt that unsettles the foundation you have so carefully constructed. The relentless machinery that has powered your search begins to creak, falter, as if the cogs themselves are uncertain whether to keep turning. In that moment, a new possibility slips in that the absence you have feared might not be a void but a fullness. That the emptiness you sought to fill might be a doorway, an invitation, a hidden passage to something deeper and truer. There is a strange sweetness in this unraveling. It is not loss or defeat, but a kind of shedding like autumn leaves drifting from branches to make space for new life beneath. You begin to see that the self you have painstakingly built, your identity, your narrative, your sense of who you are, is not a solid, unchanging monument, but a shifting form composed of thought, memory, and belief. And as this belief softens, the edges of that identity blur and soften. The titles and roles you have worn like armor begin to dissolve, revealing the open, unformed space beneath. In that space, a profound freedom stirs. The desperate need to prove yourself fades away. The constant drive to justify your worth loosens its hold. And a new way of being dawns, one not anchored to achievement or recognition, but rooted in presence itself. You begin to recognize that the meaning you have chased outwardly, the purpose, the answers, the validation is not separate from you. It has been here all along, woven into the very fabric of your existence, quietly waiting beneath the noise of striving. This awakening does not come by force. It cannot be willed or commanded. It arrives as a gentle surrender, a relinquishing of control that paradoxically feels like coming home. You come to understand that peace is not a reward reserved for the worthy, not a distant goal to be reached through effort and becoming. It is the steady ground beneath every step, the quiet ocean beneath the storm's surface, always present and unchanging, regardless of your circumstances or achievements. The illusions that once seemed so real begin to shimmer and fade, like mist touched by morning sun. The fear that drove the search loses its power. It remains, perhaps, as a whisper or a shadow, but no longer dominates the landscape of your mind. In its place, curiosity grows, wonder blooms, and acceptance rises like a gentle tide. You find yourself drawn away from desperate questions toward the stillness between questions. You find that the journey itself, the unfolding moment, is enough, no matter where it leads. The sense of separation, the belief that you are apart from the world, a solitary figure struggling to find your place softens and begins to dissolve. Boundaries blur. You feel an expanding connection, an intimate knowing that you are not alone or isolated, but an inseparable part of an immense living whole. This connection does not require proof or understanding. It simply reveals itself when resistance falls away. This opening is not an arrival, but a beginning. It invites you to live without the constant need for reassurance, to embrace uncertainty without fear, to welcome the mystery without trying to control it. It is the quiet awakening to a timeless truth that has always been present beneath your search and beyond your stories. You are enough exactly as you are. Within this truth, a new strength arises, not the strength of striving or force, but the strength of surrender and trust. The burden of proving yourself slips away, replaced by a lightness of being you may have never known. You discover that life does not depend on your approval or your answers to be whole. It is whole now, in this very moment, and so are you. This unfolding is a gradual dance. Some days the old fears and doubts creep back, heavy as before, reminding you of the habits of searching and clinging. But each time, you learn a little more to recognize them as old echoes, to greet them with gentle kindness instead of resistance, to let them pass without being pulled back into their current. You find yourself standing more often in the stillness, resting in the presence that is not contingent on thought or story. In these moments, you glimpse what lies beyond the machinery, a freedom unbound by the endless cycle of wanting and becoming, a peace that does not depend on circumstance, a love that is not earned but given freely, a presence that holds you without condition. And so the unraveling continues, not as loss, but as liberation. A letting go that does not diminish you, but reveals the vastness of who you truly are. The search, once all-consuming, softens into a quiet knowing that what you sought was never outside, never something to capture or hold, but the very essence of your being, immeasurable, unshakable, endlessly free. At last, the unraveling opens into a vast space and expanse where the boundaries that once seemed so real dissolve like mist in morning light. The restless mind, worn from its endless chasing, finally finds rest, not in concepts or answers, but in a truth too vast for words, yet intimately known. Here, the search falls silent. The longing that once drove you forward softens into a stillness that does not demand or question, but simply is. It is the place where the pursuit ends, not with defeat or resignation, but with recognition, a homecoming to the fullness you have always been beneath every layer of story and fear. This fullness is not something new to be earned or acquired. It is the essence that has been present all along, hidden beneath the swirling patterns of thought, beneath the clamor of wanting and needing. It is the unchanging ground beneath the shifting waves of experience, the silent witness that embraces every joy and sorrow without distinction. It is the stillness that breathes life into all movement, the peace that holds every storm with unwavering calm. Here, you are free from the chains of expectation, free from the relentless pressure to prove yourself, to become more, to fix what you thought was broken. The tightly woven threads of identity constructed from memories, judgments, fears, and hopes begin to loosen and fall away like autumn leaves drifting gently to the earth. What remains is a vast openness, a boundless space within that is not confined by story or self-image. And in this space, there is only presence, pure, simple, radiant presence. This presence is not dependent on achievement, approval, or external validation. It asks nothing from you but your willingness to be. It does not require you to perform or improve. It does not judge or demand. It simply is the quiet pulse beneath every breath, the sacred rhythm of life flowing through you without interruption or condition. To rest in this presence is to come home to the truth that you have always been enough, always whole, always worthy, always deeply loved. To live here is to live without masks or defenses, without the frantic urgency to fill some imagined emptiness. It is to rest in mystery, to welcome uncertainty with open arms, to find joy not in outcomes, but in the simple fact of being alive, breathing, existing. This is the heart of liberation, the courage to surrender fully, not out of defeat or despair, but out of deep love and acceptance for what is. And yet, this freedom is not an escape from the world or its challenges. It is not a retreat into numbness or detachment. Rather, it is a profound deepening into life itself. The illusion of separation, that harsh belief that you are alone, isolated, struggling to claim your place, softens and dissolves like morning fog under the warming sun. You feel your connection to all that is, an intimate knowing that you are part of an immense living whole. This connection is not something to be understood or earned. It simply reveals itself when resistance falls away. From this place of awakened presence, compassion flows naturally, not as effort or obligation, but as the spontaneous expression of seeing others as yourself. Their joys and sorrows become your own, and holding their pain with gentle kindness becomes effortless. The hard lines of self and other soften and blur until they vanish entirely. In this unity, there is no need to struggle for belonging, no need to prove your worth, no need to chase meaning, because you recognize that you already belong, you already are. In this awakening, you realize that the purpose you so fervently sought was never a distant destination or achievement, but the unfolding journey of presence itself. To be here now, fully alive and aware in this moment, this is the truest meaning. All else is story, a dance of thought and time. The world around you may look unchanged, but nothing is quite the same. Familiar challenges arise, yet they no longer shake your core. You meet life with calm strength and clarity, your eyes no longer clouded by fear, need, or resistance. Your actions flow naturally from a place of deep peace and intuitive knowing, not from frantic searching or defense. And when old doubts or fears return as they will, they no longer seize you. You greet them with kindness, recognizing them as echoes of a past self, relics of old stories no longer holding sway. You let them pass gently, returning again and again to the steady presence beneath, the ground that never shifts. This is not a final, static state to conquer, but a living, breathing journey, a dance between the known and the unknown, between form and formlessness. It is an invitation to live fully and freely, not despite uncertainty, but because of it. to embrace the mystery, the paradox, the unfolding moment with open heart and open arms. So now you stand at the edge of this vast awakening, ready to move forward, not toward some promised land, but into the endless unfolding of life itself. With every step, you carry the profound truth that you are whole, you are loved, and you are enough. You are the silent light that shines through all things, the unbroken thread weaving the fabric of existence. The illusion has faded. The endless search has ended. What remains is the radiant, timeless presence of your true self, free, boundless, endlessly alive.